Hi everyone, this is Phil Travis, and this is week 9, the announcement for History 458 here at EOU. This is Max, the Pomeranian, my Pomeranian, who's hanging out with us for the announcement. Right, Max? Yeah, good boy. Um, this is week 9, and let me first of all say, so I'm in my the spare room at the house, and this is my old computer that I'm on. And it's making a little bit of a racket here, so I hope it's not too loud for you. Please try to bear with me on it. I hope it's not making so much noise that it's distracting. So this announcement is for week 9. This week, we have our discussion forum as always. We're going to be examining Reconstruction this week. We're pretty much done with the McPherson book. We don't have a quiz or anything like that this week, just a graded discussion forum. Please, let's be working on our papers. We have those research papers coming due in about 2 weeks. So let's be devoting our energy now to really making those papers good. It's better to make sure you have your research done and you've got a lot of writing done rather than waiting to the last minute. So now's a great time to really get some work done on that. You have a window right now where you don't have to really prepare for a quiz. You don't have to worry too much about preparing for the test yet. So use this week to really work on that essay. If you have any questions about it, please let me know. Certainly a number of you have contacted me asking for help on the paper, and I hope my feedback has been helpful. And please, if anybody has questions about the paper, please do ask. So it's week 9, and this week I wanted to give us another factoid, of course, and I wanted to make the factoid maybe I don't know if it's more interesting, but I think it's a very interesting factoid this week. The Civil War, of course, is often remembered as a war of North versus South, and sometimes we think, if you were in the North, you fought for the Union. If you were in the South, you fought for the Confederacy. The reality is, in the Civil War, there were many individuals from the North that fought for the South. And there are many individuals in the South that fought for the North. And the factoid for this week is about 2 pretty significant individuals that were from the South who refused to leave the Union with the Confederacy. And they joined the Union and they worked for the Union. One of these was Vice President Andrew Johnson, who was made, he was put on the ticket with Abraham Lincoln in the election of 1864, largely to gain votes. Andrew Johnson was not a savvy political personality, but he had the ability to pull in votes from, elements of the Democratic Party in the North, because Andrew Johnson was from Tennessee, and being from Tennessee, he was a group of individuals from part of the South that, were really, if you will, put off by the large plantation aristocracy of the South. He was kind of a self-taught, self-educated individual from Tennessee who refused to secede with his state. And in 1864, Lincoln was, even though he won the election fairly handedly in 1864, there was a period of time where it seemed that Lincoln really needed to get votes on the ticket. And they thought maybe a good way to do that would be to appeal to non-Republican voters by putting Andrew Johnson on the ticket. Andrew Johnson, of course, after Lincoln is assassinated in Ford's Theater in 1865, of course, Andrew Johnson becomes the President of the United States, which was a very unfortunate occurrence for many reasons. I mean, aside from the fact that Wilkes Booth had assassinated Lincoln, aside from that fact, the fact that Andrew Johnson was an individual that was really terribly equipped to be president. He was not a good person that you wanted leading the United States at such a desperate time as this. Andrew Johnson, some historians have referred to Andrew Johnson as the most racist president in U.S. history. He was not a savvy political thinker. He was not a compromiser. He very much had the idea that it was his way or the highway. And when Andrew Johnson runs up against Congress over issues of Reconstruction, he really digs his heels in and refuses to compromise with Congress. And this turns him into a very serious lame duck president. He set records at the time for having his veto overridden by Congress. But Andrew Johnson, some have said the most racist of the American presidents who became president after the assassination of Lincoln, was one example of a Southerner who didn't secede with his state, and of course joined Lincoln on the ticket largely to gain votes in the presidential election of 1864. The other individual is General Montgomery C. Meigs. General Meigs was Quartermaster General of the Union, and he was from Georgia. And Meigs was, again, a Georgian who refused to secede with the South. He was loyal to the Union, and after the secession, he joined the Union, and he served as Quartermaster General. General Meigs was, a really vital component to the Union effort. His job was overseeing the supply and support, the logistic support, and supply support of Union soldiers, specifically as they began to expand in their operations in the South, which was a very, very in-depth and important job. It was a job behind the lines, so to speak, but a very important job. And in that respect, he excelled in the position. And in that respect, he was vital to the Union's success. So General Meigs, a Southerner from Georgia, who became Quartermaster General, a Quartermaster General in the Union, who oversaw the supply operations of Union troops throughout the war. It provided fundamental logistic and supply operational support for Union soldiers. It was therefore vital to Union victory. General Meigs also was fundamental in the selection of the site for Arlington National Cemetery. So those are the factoids for this week. One factoid. Keep on sending me those factoids. Get your bonus points on that last test. And let's have a great last couple weeks of the term. Oh, real quick, I forgot to tell you about the reading for this week. Of course, by the way, I have my my weekly lecture up for you. As always, on Reconstruction, and I have 2 Reconstruction lectures for you these last 2 weeks. There's one this week, and then one next week. So Reconstruction Weekly Lecture Part 1 this week. And then also our readings this week, I have 2 readings from the historian Eric Foner. One reading is an overview of Reconstruction. It's a pretty brief and straightforward overview of Reconstruction, but I wanted you to, rather than give you an entire book on Reconstruction, I thought I would give you a nice, concise sort of chapter on Reconstruction. And these are PDFs in Canvas. You'll notice there was a couple of pages in the first reading where the edge got cut off, and so I scanned the page again. And so if you see that, just look to the next page down, and you'll see the page that was missing. So hopefully that doesn't confuse anyone. The other reading also comes from Eric Foner. It is a PDF, and this is a historiographical essay, or a lit review for other disciplines, that Eric Foner wrote in the 1980s. And I wanted you to read this. Of course, it's relevant to our discussion forum this week, but I wanted you to read this review of literature by Eric Foner because it'll really give you a strong feeling for how the scholarship, how the interpretation of Reconstruction has changed from the beginning of the 1900s until now in the 21st century. So how it's changed over the last just over a century, and it's changed substantially. And so I want you to think about, how and why historical interpretations have changed over the last, century or so. So we'll be reading those for this week. They're in Canvas in PDF form. Participate in the discussion forum. No quiz this week. Focus on your papers. Email me that factoid. Southerners who joined the Union. 1, Andrew Johnson, and 2, General Meigs. So send me that factoid no later than Wednesday by midnight. Get your bonus points on a test score at the end of the term, and let's have a great week, guys.